Hi, it's Meta from Sol again. We're back to do another video. What we've been talking about in the office recently is basically the fundamentals of drifting. So what you need to get started and do the right thing. So obviously first up we came with the RTR. We thought about a lot of things for the second segment of what we do, thinking about course design and how your course design really affects your learning process and everything else to do with what you're doing really. The very first thing is to make sure our surface is prepared and clean. We'll check the carpet over, make sure nothing's lifting, and then from there what we'll do is basically go to the hoover and just clean the whole damn thing. So once the surface is clean and we know there's no marks or burnt bits or bits of gravel in it or anything like that, what we'll do is we'll basically go to the office and we'll kind of think about what we want from the course. Make a little sketch, which I have here, which gives us an idea of where we want to go with the course. So I'll draw a couple of lines and think, I think this, and then James will come along, who's behind the camera, and he'll come along and do a couple of lines, and from that we'll kind of get a rough idea. What you draw on here might be awful, you know, in theory it looks good, but when you put it down on the ground it could be completely different. When you're designing your course, when you get your basic layout, try not to have more than maybe 4 or 5 direction changes. But we've got this space and we can put a turn there and we can put a turn there and put as many turns in as you can. That's not necessarily what a drift course is like. Mayhan, Ebisu, YZ, most of them are 1 or 2, maybe 3 turns. Use Mayhan as the example. You have a hairpin that kicks back onto a straight, comes into a U-turn and flicks back. So it's 1, 2, 3 direction changes. It's not a lot, so don't try and overcomplicate your course or spend loads and loads of time trying to fit in lots of corners in. Just make sure it flows well. You know, there's a good bit of punch in there so you get your car up to speed, and also a little technical section where everyone can bunch up and twin together, and that's kind of how to approach it. So what we'll do next is we'll get some marker cones on the floor. I've taken the original drawing, which was a bit of a mess, but basically, as you can see, it's a very basic shape. And what I've done is actually marked out these little circles here, which are the apexes of each corner, which are marked out on the track behind me. But then what I've also done is you can see these lines, and these lines with the arrows are the direction change points. Comes around, bit of a hairpin, and we've got 1 direction change into this L section here. The L section will be the 2nd direction change, looping back on itself for the 3rd direction change, 4th, and then onto a straight with a feint move. The feint move is a small snapping movement. That's Tobashi, but we'll get more technical about that in another video. And as you can see, we haven't overcomplicated things. We've stuck to the rules where we've got 4 direction changes and a feint, so that's 5 total really. If we have a look behind me and have a look at the markers on the course, so you'll be able to see kind of roughly where we go from there. And then what we'll do is we'll add in bits of Tetsujin curbing, which is really handy because we can just break it up and move it around and stuff, and sort of give us a rough guide to the line really and the width of the track, which we'll come on to later. So have a look behind me and then we'll show you the basics, and then we'll show you once we've thrown in some curbing as well. Okay, so as you can see behind me, I've shuffled around the apex cones a little, and I've also added in some Tetsujin curbing to mark out the line so we can see where the inner and outer edges of the track are going to be. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a couple of laps. The first laps I'm going to do are going to be with front koregashi only. A skill level here, the average skill level, is beginner to intermediate. There's a few advanced guys, but generally it's beginner intermediate. So those guys are learning koregashi, and they're learning the basics of being able to get around the track and you know, operate their finger correctly to actuate the throttle in the correct proportion. That was a hell of a complicated sentence. What you'll notice when I was running the track is that the yellow cones aren't clipping points, they're just corner apexes. So if I happen to run one it's because that's where the line takes me. It's not because it's you know, the clipping point. Setting the course up isn't just about clipping points, it's about the flow of the whole thing. So you need to concentrate on the apexes, and then the clipping points will come in later once we've added more to the track. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the scenery into the track and give it a bit more bulk, and then the final part of what we do will be putting the lines into the track, which create the flow and create the width. When I'm putting the scenery in, we put basically barriers on the scenery here, so they're designed to stop cars coming in different directions and hitting each other, or stop people crashing the cars too hard. We want to protect everyone's cars here and make sure you know, when you crash, because you will crash, that the minimum amount of damage is caused to your car. So I'm going to get those in, and then we'll come back and show you when all the scenery's in. Okay, so due to a technical glitch, we've had to film the end of this video a couple of days later. We managed to get the microphone not to work. We're new to this, bear with us. Basically, the point we got to was that we'd run a couple of laps of the circuit, so you guys saw that. And from there, you know, over the next day, we basically put in all the line tape and everything on the circuit. So what I'm going to do is briefly explain a couple of points about that. Okay, so the first point we want to get to is with your corner apexes and your inner edge of each corner, is to leave the inner apexes of the corners clear. Reason being is, of course, if the lead car manages to cut in a little bit too much, the chase car's got a bit of room to dive in and out so he doesn't get trapped on the corner. Of course, if you're building your circuits with a bunch of scenery right at the edge of the track and on the apexes, then you're going to end up with a lot of crashes, and it makes it a little frustrating for people, and it makes it much harder to learn. That's the first point, and then we'll move on to the second one. So have a look at this. Completely contradictory to what I've just said, by not putting objects on the inner apexes of corners. Actually, on this corner, we want to force the cars onto a wide line. So where my body is over there, you can see that the car's nice and wide, and it's going to sweep all the way out against this wall and take a wide line to shoot up the straight. That's the quickest line, and it also leaves a lot of room for the car behind you. The reason for the dome here is to actually force cars in that direction. So that dome really lets people know they're offline. So don't take anything as a standardized rule. It's not, you know, keep this clear, keep that clear, do this, do that. It's work with what the course is doing. So if you need cars room to cut in, let them cut in. If you want to force the cars wide, force the cars wide. But if you're going to do that, make sure they've got loads and loads of room when they are out wide, so they're not getting bunched up there either. That's the key points of the track. Hopefully you've learned something from that, and it's helped you out, or just helped you, you know, think of some new ideas to create your own circuits. That's how we do it here. So hopefully that works everywhere else. The way we work here is basically everything that we've learned from Team Tetsujin, Mr. Mizunaga-san, who's helped us out a bunch and has been a mentor to us. So otherwise, you know, we're here to help. So if you guys have any comments or you like the video, you know, do leave it on our YouTube feedback and everything, and you know, try and let us know if we're doing the right thing for you. Final point before we go is a lot of people are asking us about what tape we use to put in our carpet. It's something like, I guess, 25mm, but it's made by a company called Mammoth Tasks. So that's the tape we use, is Mammoth Tasks. So thank you very much for watching, and like I said in the first place, I hope it helped, and maybe we'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye.